Hello, my dear friends. A few days ago, I heard of the passing of our wonderful friend that we love so much, Dr. Morris Cerullo. Now, of course, I stopped and thought that now he's looking in the face of Jesus, the Jesus that he loved so much and talked about and preached about and lived his life for. But then I was also saddened because it's kind of the passing of an era. That's right. You see, the first Voice of Healing convention was held in my father's church in Kansas City. I was just a young, aspiring young man who wanted to go into the ministry, 13 years of age. And the greatest men that God was using in healing around the world were at this first great Voice of Healing conference. There was the famous Jack Coe, had the world's largest tent, bigger than a circus tent. There was the famous William Branham, who had miracles like no one before or since. There was Gordon Lindsay. The list went on and on and on. But there was much talk about a young man who was about 21, maybe 22, that God was using a young Jewish boy that had been saved by the grace of God. His name, Morris Cerullo. But now they're all gone. The last one that was left was Morris Cerullo. And 2 days ago, he went to be with the Lord. Without a doubt, in spite of all the great meetings and the masses that attended these great women's meetings, the one that probably made the biggest difference in the world, without a doubt, we'd all agree, is Morris Cerullo. You know, I've been preaching since I was 16. That's 66 years myself. I'm only 6 years younger than Dr. Cerullo. But you know, traveling this world as I have all these years, I've been places all over the world. Some of the greatest churches in the world, they were the young men that Morris Cerullo had taught and had raised up. The greatest churches, the greatest ministry. And I remember as a young man hearing him say that God spoke to him and said, I want you to build an army of people that will take the gospel throughout the world. An army of 1 million soldiers. Well, Dr. Cerullo reached that 1 million and even 2 million and even more. Probably nobody touched the world like this wonderful man. He was a man of great compassion and generosity. I remember his visit to the Dream Center when Katrina hit Louisiana. Him and his wife just showed up and wanted a tour. I took him on a tour of this place, and it had been years since I had seen him. There was a vacant floor. And he said, well, what are you doing with this floor? I said, well, eventually we want to fix it up. We're bringing over 300 families from Katrina. But I said, we'd now run out of room. Dr. Cerullo said, well, what would it take to fix up one of these floors? I said, about $1 million. He said, I'll fix up one of these floors. And he fixed up one of those floors, over $1 million, and we named it after his beloved wife, Teresa. He affectionately called her Mama Teresa. And that's the name of this floor, filled with abused women that God has changed by the power of the living God. You know, we all want to make a difference in the world. But here's truly a man that has made a difference. His desire was always to be used of God. And I got to know him very well and spoke at all of his conferences throughout the world, became a dear friend. Matter of fact, became a member of his board, one of those now that'll make decisions about the future of this ministry. His one desire was that his wife would be made president of the organization to carry out his desire to leave a legacy that would live long after he had passed away. And many of you are going to be coming in a few weeks, and oh, I wish he could have been there for the dedication of legacy. There's nothing like it in the world. a place where people could come and be trained, a place with a 5-star hotel upon it, a place with things that tell the legacy of the gospel and tell the history of healing. He's even got a ride over the Holy Land. If you've ever taken the Disneyland ride, fly over California, well, this is the same thing, only fly over Israel. I was with him at the planning of this. He got so excited, and we'd spend hours just talking about it. And it was to open, but it was canceled out by the epidemic that we are living on now. And so it had to be postponed. People were coming from all over the world. And so we'd set another date, but God had other plans for Dr. Cerullo. He won't be there for the opening of Legacy. But a few days, because just 2 weeks ago, he asked me to come over. He wanted to introduce it to 150 pastors and asked me if I would speak to them and go with them on this tour. I agreed to do it. The night before, he said, I've got a surprise. The day before, he took me through Legacy. There's nothing like it in the world. He took me on the ride to fly over all the wonderful things. And then that night, he said, Pastor, you're going to stay in one of the suites of our hotel tonight. And I'm going to stay in the other suite, the master suite. Nobody's ever stayed in the hotel. I've never stayed there. And then at night, we're going to eat in the restaurant. Nobody's ever eaten there. It was named after Mama Teresa, an Italian restaurant. And so that night, we had a wonderful meal, wonderful steak dinner. And then he said goodnight and went upstairs, him and his precious wife. And I went over to the other suite. The first people that ever stayed, we were. And the first meal in that restaurant. That night as we talked, he said, Pastor, I have a dream. I want to leave a legacy that I reached more people after I died through this ministry than when I was alive. And then he began to share with me his plan. The young men that strategically he had placed all over the world. He showed me the map and where they were going to be. And he said, we're going to be able to reach far more after I pass away, using this legacy center to train and equip and bring people around the world and inspire. And even though Morris is gone, his legacy was not even this beautiful place that he dreamed about and built. But his legacy will be the people, the army, the thousands that are around the world. Now I close by saying, heaven is a wonderful place. The Bible said it's going to have streets of gold. The Bible said it's going to have a celestial sea. The Bible said it's going to have a foundation of rubies and gems and diamonds. And the Bible said there's going to be a gate that you enter into, 1,212 feet high, made out of pure pearl. Somebody said, boy, I'd like to see that gate. I've often said, I'd like to see the oyster that made that pearl. Morris Cerullo had a great sense of humor, and he's in heaven right now. But what is the heaven in heaven? What is the thing that will turn Morris Cerullo on more than anything? Yeah, he's gone through that gate of pearl. I'm sure he ran down that golden street. I'm sure he'd like to take a swim in that celestial sea. But they'll all have to step aside for a minute. For the Bible said, and we shall see his face. For Cerullo is looking in the face of the one that he lived for, that he taught for, that he was consumed with all of his life. How beautiful heaven must be. Now, God be with all of you. We're going to miss him. I'm sure we'll have a great farewell service soon. But I want to take this moment to say, today let's rejoice with the man of God He's with the Father today. God bless you all.